Hey everyone, Frey up here, and this will be the start of a potential series where I take an expert chart and explain the process of reducing it to low difficulties. Now before we go into it, I do want to explain why I'm doing this series and what I'm planning to do with it. So, to give myself a bit of context, I've been pretty much one of the main low difficulty testers for CSC. Ever since I got accepted as a tester back in early 2020, I've gained quite a knowledge on how the reductions for full difficulty charts work, simply because I started playing Colonial on those lower difficulties and wanted to make full difficulty charts for myself too. And I always had the idea to start making some sort of guide on how to do full difficulty charts, but the lack of skills I have for making these sorts of videos has always made me push that idea to the side. But recently, seeing how a lot of newer charters have been popping up for the monthly packs that could use some help, I think now would be the perfect time to start working on this series. And I think the best way for me to teach people how to do reductions is to just show the process of me making the low difficulties myself. Now, there are a lot of different techniques you can use for your reductions, and unlike charting for experts, a lot of it is gonna boil down to personal preference. So while I can't ever hope to make a definitive guide on how to make full difficulty charts, I can at least try to explain my thought process for some of the individual songs, which is why I'm thinking of making this a series. So yeah, I do have some ideas on what sort of songs I want to cover in the future, but if you do have some suggestions of your own, I would love to hear them down in the comments. It can even be a song that you're struggling with yourself or just a song that you think would be interesting for me, doesn't really matter. I may even attempt to cover some charts live on streams, similar to Cyclops Dragon's charting class streams, which could be pretty cool. So yeah, with that out of the way, we can go over to our first chart here, which will be the Vivaldi's winter cover from the Big Crusher DLC pack. So yeah, let's just get straight on with it. So what I'm gonna do here is just select the whole expert chart. You can do that easily with Control A. Go over to Heart, and then just paste it right over. You don't need to change anything but the stop part unless you get rid of some notes that are crucial for some activations. But yeah, so let's just start off with these first few measures here. Now, because this is a rather slow section, this is all just fours. Now, typically you would like to reduce everything you can, but when it's such a slow section like this, it's not really all that necessary. You can very easily react to this as a hard player. So we're just gonna go over to the next part, which is these grace notes, which are 30-second notes here. Now let's go over a few different ways you could possibly reduce this. So one way to reduce this would be to just get rid of the next 30-second note, which would be the orange note here. But then you have the problem of, this isn't really the emotion you want to convey with these sorts of grace notes here. So another way you could do that is you could just get rid of the last note here. And while you do preserve some of the motion from the expert shots, it is still quite fast. This is still 30-second notes here. So what I like to do for sections like this is just go with straight 16ths, but just do something like this. Now, it doesn't matter if you do ascending or descending, as long as you preserve the motion of the grace note here. This is sort of the best thing you can do with these sorts of notes. So I'm just gonna do a bunch of this parts, and I'm just gonna play that back. If you didn't know what the original chart looked like, it's honestly kind of hard to notice that this is, what the correct motion is. So this feels pretty damn similar to what's, any expert chart. So yeah, the rest of this section is just a bunch of these grace notes here. So we're gonna do a lot of copy and pasting here. One thing that helps with copying and pasting here is you need to know what the shortcuts are for how to get up or down a measure. That's typically on the page up or down keys, but you can configure that to whatever keys you want in Moonscraper. So I'm just gonna copy a bunch of this here, go over to the next set of notes, and then I can just paste that. And then, yeah, just move that to the proper frets that you need. This is gonna be a bit boring, so I'm probably just gonna skip through this whole section here once I'm done making it. Alright, so now that we've done with that section, let's go over to verse 1a. So, I'm gonna play you through what this section looks like for a few measures. And then it just repeats that motion like another 2 times here. So first of all, let's start with this strumming here. Typically, you would like to reduce every 4th note or so, but for low difficulties, you want to preserve as much of the important note as possible. And you can clearly see that we can just like get rid of every 2nd note here and just preserve all the important notes here. Of course, we still want to have that all 4 strums right here. Now here come the like solo bits here. Now this is where you can reduce to a lower step count. So this is 16 notes right here. We can easily reduce that to 12 notes here. Now while this isn't exactly the notes that you are playing on experts, it's just a lot nicer when you're playing it smooth out like this. And of course you want to like move it down to lower fret here to reduce the motion from green to orange, because they typically you don't want to have as much motion between green and orange on hards than on expert. So now we come to this sort of zigzag pattern here. Now this is a bit of an awkward pattern to reduce in just when you're trying to go from 16 to 12s. So while you cannot exactly preserve the motion of a zigzag, you can still do a descending triplet here. Or you can do an ascending as well, but typically I like to do a descending motion. That just tends to be easier. So now we go over to these trills here. Now you could reduce that to a lower step as well. This is 30 seconds right here. We could do 24s, but it still ends up being quite fast for hard if you do 24s. And for hard, you don't typically expect people to be tapping this, and you cannot really one-hand this. So what you typically do for like really fast patterns like this, let me just prevent all the changes here. You just go from 30 seconds to 16, so half the notes right here. This also works really well for trills because you still preserve like the speed of the trills, just it's half now. I don't know if I can really explain it all that well. For trills especially, you typically want to just like half them. And then we go back to our grace notes here. We can just do a little 2 notes here. So yeah. And then this part just repeats, but we do need a little bit of changes with the wrapping here. So we just go down to the changes we've made already here. You can scroll down to any sections you've placed down by holding Alt, and then you scroll down to whatever section you want. So that's really handy if you know you need to copy from the beginning of a section. So we're just gonna copy right here. So we got a section copy. All we need to do is just like, do a few changes to our wrapping here. Alright, so now we got that section done. Let's just quickly go over what the pre-chorus looks like. You got this simple like up and down riff in 8th notes here. And then you also have a bunch of these chords here. So what I like to do for this is just like make all of the chords singles here. I think that's the best solution. Now, of course, you do need to watch out the wrapping matches this for the single notes too. You need to make sure that all the notes are ascending as well. I mean, this part does keep going up, but because it's like the lower note of the chord, I don't think it's all that important. You kind of have to just do some sacrifices when reducing things like that. But yeah, so let's just go over to the chorus. So it's just this pattern repeated. You have this sort of strumming part here, and then a simple up and down part here. Let's go about how we reduce this part here. Now this is 16 notes here. We could go down to 12 notes if we want, but okay, you can kind of see a bit of a problem here, because the 12th notes don't quite fit into this, like, these 16th notes here. You could go 24th to kind of manage it. Yeah, it's not gonna work. And typically, reducing strumming parts to, like, triplets, it doesn't really work all that well unless it's like long stretches of strumming. So you typically just wanna, like, reduce this 16th strumming to 8ths. Now this is already better, but you do kind of notice that we keep going with this 8th strumming here, even though the strumming does change in the expert chart here. You go from these 16th notes to 8th notes. So what you also want to do for hard here is just to get rid of these notes, so you preserve the sort of note density that you have with experts, with like the 16th and 8th. And hardest, that's now 8ths and 4ths. Now this up and down part is really simple, but one thing we could do about this is to just like get rid of the last note here before the next measure. Just something that I like to do to make the transition into the next measure a little bit easier. Yeah, as simple as that. And then yeah, then this sort of motion keeps repeating throughout the chorus. So yeah, just keep doing that, and it's important to be consistent with your productions, so watch out for that. So yeah, let's just go over to verse 2A here. Let's play a little bit of it. So yeah, we have these 16 ascending patterns here, and for that we can just simply reduce these 16 notes to 12ths. So yeah, and your pattern doesn't really have to exactly match what the expert chart is, as long as you preserve the general motions of it. Most people won't really notice. Again, I need to actually look at the expert chart to see what I need to do here. Let's have a quick look to what the reduction looks like here. So while this isn't exactly to how it's like in the expert chart, it's close enough, I think. And I think the pattern is quite nice here. It's quite easy to tell what to do here. And then we have these sets of quads here. We can easily just reduce these to triplets here, ascending triplets and descending. And yeah, you don't exactly start on a 16th here, but that's just kind of the trade-off you have to deal with reductions here. It's not gonna be exactly like it is on experts. That's kind of the point. So here we just do some descendings here. And here we have more quads here. We can just simply do the set of triplets here. Watch out for the wrapping. And yeah, we can just do this sort of thing again and again. And yeah, this part just repeats like that one more time. Got this little pattern. Let's see if I can manage to make it look kind of nice here. I think just doing these sorts of descending triplets here would work fine. I mean, it does work fine, but we could maybe also, this swaps between this sort of sake pattern and this quad here, so maybe we could preserve some of the individual motions here. If we could, like, somehow do this, maybe. Yeah, I think that works for this sort of pattern. Now we got sort of this neoclassical action going on here. Now we could just do a quad if we feel like it, but you know, since this pattern is a little bit more than just a quad, I kind of want to just like do a sort of ladder pattern here, just to make it different from quad here. So we have this sort of wall pattern here. Well, you cannot really preserve the sort of wall pattern of this thing, but I don't think it matters all too much because the pitch just keeps changing every beat or so I don't think it matters too much. So we can just like simplify this to this sort of Okay, now we get to the funny business, these sort of trills here. And fun facts. Yeah, this is nerfed. Here's what that looks like unnerfed. These are just triplets here. Yeah, I had to nerf it just trills because it just wasn't a lot of fun for not that skilled players like me. So I just have it as these trills instead of triplets here. Yeah, that's the sort of thing I like to do for Big Crusher, you know? Just make charts that aren't for the most skilled people out there. These really fast trill patterns, we can just like do 16s for that, so we can just like get rid of here and then move all these to blue here. Yeah, so we got more of these neoclassical type patterns. You can just do like that. More trills. Any other section is just so more of the same, yeah. Yeah, so now we got that section over. Yeah, bridge is nothing all that spectacular. I don't think I really need to reduce things there. Although I guess since this strumming is a bit faster, I could maybe just like get rid of this just to make the transitions between the chords a bit easier. Yeah. Okay, verse 3 isn't all that notable either. We could maybe just like get rid of this to make transitions a bit easier, but it's not really all that necessary. I just kinda do it just so it's at least a little bit different from Expert here. So now we come to the big strumming section here, and this is all 16s as well. Now this is a point where we can actually just use 12, so the strumming section here, because you don't do a lot of fretting here, and you can easily get the strumming down once you do it for a bit. And yeah, it's just like this the whole way through, so I think one thing you could maybe do is like, yeah, we got a little bit stretchy chords here, these red, orange, and green, blue chords. You could maybe just like move the top notes closer together. So like you could have these sorts of chords here. There's certainly a method you can use to reduce things on lower difficulties to make the chords a bit simpler. Anyway, I'm not gonna do the whole section here because it's gonna be pretty boring. So yeah, this section chorus, we've already gone through that. It's just the same thing, really, except you got a zigzag here. Again, we can just do either descending or ascending triplet here. Doesn't really matter. And then at the end of the chorus, yeah, we have this same sort of strumming pattern at the beginning. Again, just like before, we can just do this sort of pattern and preserve the motion of the 16th and 8th from Expert. So yeah, this is just the same thing the whole way down, so it's not really worth going over. And yeah, that's basically our hard chart right there. To spare a bit of time, I'm just gonna take the hard chart that I've already done for this chart and then just use that for medium, so I'll be back in a second. And then there we go. We're just gonna go straight to medium now. Let's just go over all the sections again to see what we can reduce here. So right here, what we could do for medium is actually just like simplify these red-blue chords to red yellow. Just simply because of the fact that we only have green to blue to work with, so moving the blue to yellow makes a bit sense here, helps a little bit with playing. And then of course we have our grace notes here. Now it's a bit sad to say that we cannot really preserve the motion of the grace notes without making it too hard. I mean, you could maybe just like reduce this to 12s. But I don't really like the fact that the last note ends a bit later than it should, so what we're just simply gonna do is just like get rid of the last notes here, just keep the simple first notes here. I think medium player will understand that this is a reduction of what's there from hard and expert. So we're just simply gonna get rid of all these last notes here. Alright, now that we've done that, we can just select the whole section right here. And then, because all grace notes took up 2 notes worth of space here, we can just simply move all the notes down to 1 fret, and then we have everything fit onto 4 frets here. So here we are at verse 1a again. So let's just start with the strumming here. Now, because we have removed half of the notes of this strumming, you could argue that we can just simply leave it here, because we've already reduced the amount of notes we need, but it would be a bit weird to just leave it like that exactly the same as hard. So what we're simply gonna do here is just like get rid of every 4th note here, and then move our notes down here to fit all 4 frets. It is a bit weird to be stopping the strumming like that every 4th note, but it is simply just done just so that medium feels different from hard. And then our soloing here, we can just do 8th notes here, a low step from hard. Now of course we also want to just select all of these notes as hopos, and if we don't already do that for low difficulty, we really should do that, because hopos help out a lot. And then for these trills, I think we can just do 12ths here, just so it's a little bit faster than the previous patterns we have done here, the 8th notes here. So yeah, and then we have our grace notes here, we can just delete the last notes from those and then do a medium here. Yeah, so then we have our pattern repeating here, just get rid of every 4th note here. Do a descending motion here. Now because we are already using the 4 frets that we have available to do the descending motions, we can't really do much rapping here, but we can do a little bit of rapping with this at least. Now here we come over to pre-chorus again. Now we could just simply delete every 4th note here again, but it does make the strumming a bit more awkward than we like. And it does so put us in the same note density as the fast strumming here in verse 1 here, so a simple thing we can just do is like get rid of the lower notes here, just to make it slower than the strumming in verse 1. And yeah, this is a simple way to reduce like up and down patterns, because we move our notes down to fit all 4 frets here. Alright, something I forgot to mention for medium. For the chart that I actually finished here, I did do this pattern like this, where you keep the chords like that, because I thought it would just make it a little bit more interesting than if I were to just keep it as singles. So that's like one instance where you don't exactly want to reduce from hard. Those situations are rare, but that's something you can also consider when doing reductions. Now we come over to the chorus. Now this soft strumming is a little bit fast for medium, simply because of the fact that you shouldn't require all strumming for that yet. Now we could simply just like do 8ths here, which is a fine thing to do. However, I like to make things a little bit more interesting for low difficulties. So I like to just put another extra 8th note here. just so that the pattern is a little bit more interesting to work with. And then for our up and down pattern, we just get rid of the lower notes here. Simple as that. And then of course we move down our notes to fit our 4 frets here. And then yeah, that just keeps repeating. On to verse 2 here, again we just reduce our pattern simply to A's here. And for triple patterns here, we can just do like this sort of quad pattern here. Unfortunately, we cannot do anything fancy with the wrapping here, but it is what it is. And then of course we do our hopos here. And then we have our triplets here. We can simply just reduce that to this sort of trill pattern, I guess. While this is a pattern that switches between ascending and descending, we cannot really show that with just this sort of trill pattern. That's just what you have to deal with when you deal with less notes. And here again, we just do quad patterns here. And then our trill pattern here, but this time we change the wrapping a little bit, because we do have the space for it. Now for this pattern, I'm not really sure if we can do all that much fancy with it. I guess we just do sort of this pattern, maybe. And back to our neoclassical style pattern again. We unfortunately can't do anything fancy with this few notes here. We just have to do sort of a simple descending and ascending motion here. Actually, I guess that might be bad. Just do this maybe, just because I want this measure to end with a descending bit like this, and that allows me to keep having this part as hopeless here. So it's something to keep in mind when doing reductions. Then we have a pattern like this. And then for a really fast trill pattern, we'll just do 12s, just to differentiate it from 8th patterns. And then I also move the blue to yellow just to fit in with the 4 frets. Okay, more neoclassical patterns, we can just do these sorts of six here. And more trills, yeah, you get the point here. I don't think I'm gonna bother with finishing it all. I just move over to the next few sections. I have a bridge here. One thing I would like to mention is that I would like to avoid green-blue chords on medium whenever possible, because that's just essentially like the stretch chord of medium. Sort of like how you don't want to use geos on hard. So I do want to change the chords a little bit just to avoid that situation. So you can maybe just like change our red blue to yellow blue and then green blue to red blue. And then for this sort of faster strumming, we just simply do 4ths here. And then for these chords, we could just make these a bit simpler, just to make a bit more sense for 4 frets. Now to verse 3. For this sort of strumming, you just want to keep the first note of like these sets of 2 here. Could maybe be a bit fancy with the wrapping here, but I would like to have this note be higher than the green after it, so I'll just leave it like that. Now we have our fast strumming sections. We can now reduce our 12ths here to 8, and because this is our fast strumming section, It does make a bit sense to keep it as eighths. You could also maybe reduce the chords to singles here if you wanted, but I think chords is just fine at this speed. You don't really do a lot of switching between fret and like awkward chord changes here. So just simply reducing to eighths does work fine here. And again, I'm not gonna do the whole thing, but hopefully you get the point here. Yeah, then chorus is just more of the same. I don't think it's worth going over. Yeah, just for this bit, you just simply remove that. To make it a little bit simple for medium. And now because you won't want to fit it all in 4 frets, so you do have to move the chords a bit. I think this is a good spot to move the chords to where it switches from the high to low here. I think that's a good spot to move the chords. And yeah, that's medium chart basically done here. Again, I'll just copy over the medium chart that I've already done and then move on to easy with that. Right, let's get on with it with this easy difficulty. Now, one thing you want to keep in mind with easy is that you really only want to like do chords when you want to have some real extra emphasis on them. It's all like how you do 3-note chords on hard. They're gonna be very rare, so you just simply want to remove these chords here. And we'll just skip ahead a little bit here, because I just want to grab everything from here, and then we can move all of that down here so we can fit it all down to our 3 notes. Now, one thing I like to do for easy as well is just to not have constant 4th strumming. Just like to get rid of every 4th note here. Now this does seem a bit weird here, but yeah, for easy you do want to make sure that the slower sections are not as dense as like the fastest sections here. And yeah, just to give easy players a bit of a break from strumming constant 4ths throughout the song. And for this grace note bit, we'll do the same thing here, just so that the reduction feels consistent. Even though we technically do have more notes, it's just better just keep the reduction like that. Of course, we want to make sure that our wrapping is correct here. One thing that does also help when doing low difficulties, to save a bit of time from swapping between the note select tool and the eraser tool, you could just simply use the note select tool as sort of an eraser by just simply dragging the note you want to erase down to another existing note that can act as an eraser here and can save you a bit of time. So for this one, that's where we can keep the strumming as 4ths here. And then for our little soaring bits, yeah, we just get rid of every 4th note here. You could also smooth this out to 6 if you wanted to, but what's often the case for easy is that you do want to preserve the notes for 8ths. Just so you can preserve all the accents at the right places, so you often just want to stick with 8ths when doing easy reductions. And then for this sort of trill pattern, I guess what you call it, I think it would just simply be better to just do this part as 4ths here, just so it isn't as awkward than if you just like did something like this. So yeah. And then for our trill here, we can do 8ths here. It's short enough that I think easy players can easily handle that. Move our grace notes here. And then, yeah, we just keep doing our little thing here. We're just gonna move straight over to pre-chorus here. So yeah, for pre-chorus, because this is a rather slow pattern, I think it would be nice to just get rid of every 4th note here again, and also remove the chords because we don't want chords on easy. And also make sure that our wrapping is right. Now onto the chorus. I think it would simply be wise for this first pattern to just be straight fourths. And then when it goes to the slow up and down pattern, we can just remove the fourth note here, just so it's different from the beginning pattern. And of course we want to keep that to our 3 frets here. Yeah, the first two, I feel like we're just treading a lot of ground here. Yeah, we can just simply get rid of every fourth note here. Move that over here. And then for the trill solo pattern, we can just get rid of every second note here, just to hit the top notes here, which are the most important notes. And then and then this just keeps repeating. It does feel like we're treading a lot of ground here. So I'm just gonna say something about the strumming section here. Now of course we want to get rid of all the chords here. We don't want chords on easy. But yeah, this strumming is also quite fast on easy. So just sort of like what we did for hard here, we can simply just reduce the 8th strumming to 6 here, because it's rather straightforward strumming here. Not a lot of fret changes, so we can just leave it like that. And of course move it down here. And then you get the point. Again, not gonna do everything here. And I think that's all the important points I really need to cover with this chart. So I'll have fun editing this together. Just rambling to myself for an hour straight.